I didn't necessarily want to do a whole video on this, deciding mainly to just focus on a small moment just at the start of my next planned release video, which I'm planning to do tomorrow. So, while in terms of my time right now, it's only about an hour ago that we received the news, but for anyone watching on the day that this does come out on YouTube, it'll have been yesterday, but just my brief condolences on it. My condolences to the royal family. She was only a great woman, and I'll say this now, rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth II, and God save King Charles III. The Abominable Snowmen, the second serial of Doctor Who's fifth season, first broadcast in 6 parts from the 30th of September to the 4th of November 1967. Now, the majority of this particular serial has been lost. However, one episode did remain, and eventually the entire thing was reanimated and was available to the public 5th of September 2022. Now, in this particular story, the TARDIS lands in the Himalayas, in Tibet, in 1935. The second Doctor, played by Patrick Troughton, and his companions, Jamie McCrimmon, played by Fraser Hines, and Victoria Waterfield, played by Deborah Watling, they notice a monastery in the mountains, the Detson Monastery. Now, the Doctor mainly wants to go there so that he can return a holy Ganta, a bell that he was given to protect in the 1630s. He wants to be able to go there to return the Ganta and hopefully return everything back to normal. However, things soon become a lot more complicated. For one, there is a professor roaming in the mountains named Professor Travers, played by Jack Watling, who is on the lookout for the mysterious Abominable Snowmen, aka the Yeti. The other is that returning the Ganta and getting on the good side of the monks turns out to be a little difficult, and it's soon revealed that there are actually Yeti roaming around the mountainside, and they're being controlled by a mysterious entity. As I said, there's Professor Travers, there's also several monks, including Songston, played by Charles Morgan, Chrysong, played by Norman Jones, Rinchen, played by David Gray, Tonmi, played by David Spencer, Sapan, played by Raymond Llewellyn, and Valpachan, played by David Barron. And they all serve a mysterious monk in the inner sanctum known as Padmasambhava, voiced by Wolfe Morris. And it appears that Padmasambhava has actually met the Doctor before when he was there 300 years ago. And for some reason, Padmasambhava is still somewhat alive, even though he should have passed away ages ago. And it's eventually revealed that they're in control of the being known as the Great Intelligence. Now, the Great Intelligence would return to menace the second Doctor, again in The Web of Fear, which I might get to at some point, and would also return as a kind of entity voiced by Ian McKellen in 2012's The Snowmen, and in the Series 7 finale in 2013's The Name of the Doctor. But this is the first appearance of the Great Intelligence. And in terms of what it's doing, what it's planning, all of the Yeti that are roaming the mountainside, all of the Abominable Snowmen, are actually robots. And the Great Intelligence is presented as this kind of pyramid of spheres, mysterious spheres, which, once inserted into the robots, allow the Great Intelligence to control them. And I don't know exactly what it's planning to do. Its evil plan is a little complicated. I don't know if it's trying to just gain physical form or sweep its kind of control over the mountainside or over the entire planet. It's quite complicated. But they do manage. It is still a really good story. I mean, it's got some really kind of scary moments. I mean, while I admit possibly the Abominable Snowmen look better in the kind of live action story than they probably do in animation, because they did look a little flat here, they are still really good, and they do provide a good sense of tension. I can see why so many people like these and consider them to be iconic. I mean, okay, when modern Doctor Who came around, they did have to kind of adapt things more to make kind of better storylines, but you know what? They still did well with these. The only thing that I did slightly have to question about this particular storyline is I know that when the animators reanimate these lost Doctor Who stories, sometimes they do fit in small details which weren't in the original storyline. For example, in Victoria's last serial, I think I mentioned that around some of the labs in Fury from the Deep, you can see wanted posters for Roger Delgado's Master, which is kind of impossible because these stories would have debuted in the late 60s and Roger Delgado's Master wouldn't come around until the early 70s. But yeah, the one detail here that I did slightly have to question is in the reconstruction of episode 6, when they burst into Padmasambhavar's kind of inner sanctum in order to defeat the Great Intelligence, we see amongst all the technology in the back is a globe that looks remarkably similar to the one used in The Snowmen in 2013. And I did slightly, because part of my mind did think, okay, that's just another detail that the animators added in just to tie into later. It's a small Easter egg, it's nothing more. But they do partially have to interact with it. So I did ask about whether it was there in the original storyline, and people said it was slightly different. Like the globe thing wasn't actually the globe thing, it was something different. They did have to smash it open in order to get one of the pieces, but no, it wasn't the same. But overall, watching the reconstruction of the Abominable Snowmen, I do agree it is a really good story. I can see why people consider this iconic. It was one of the first appearances of the Great Intelligence, and it is a really good Second Doctor story. I'll admit I did get confused kind of when typing about it. I think briefly got confused Zoe Herriot with Victoria Waterfield, even though Wendy Padbury and Deborah Watling completely separate people. But then again, that's my own mess up. But as I said, I do actually think this is a really good story with some really good tension, and it's got some really good characters in it. I think my favourite out of all the monks is probably Tommy, just because he ends up helping the Doctor and Victoria and Jamie so much. I do think it's a good one to check out, so if you haven't yet seen the animated recreation of the Abominable Snowmen, I'd say give it a shot. You might just be surprised. Anyway, the next classic story I'm hoping to review is one from the first Doctor, and it's The Time Meddler. Anyway, until I get around to that, see ya.